of Swillburg. The 40th anniversary and that defeat of the expressway marked a defining moment in the stability of the Swillburg neighborhood and was a period in Rochester's history where the community's voice really was heard. Tonight you're going to hear some of those voices of people who really were in the trenches during that time, whose actions each in their own way contributed to the present vitality and energy of Swillburg. So all of you in the back, way back there, if we could quiet down or close the doors, that would be helpful for a moment. Thank you. The late Robert Kennedy said this: "It is not more bigness that should be our goal. We must attempt rather to bring people back to the warmth of community, to the worth of individual effort and responsibility, and of individuals working together as a community to better their lives and their children's future." I think that sums up for us what Swillburg has been working toward, this combination of community in its broadest sense, where every individual has done their part to make this a warm and vital community. So I call on Mike Henry, our resident historian, who will recap how the expressway issue became a rallying cry for Swillburg and of individuals working together as a community. And it was his brainchild to create this celebration. Come on up, Mike.
Oh, thank you so much, Judy. First of all, I'd just like to mention our current president, Josh Massicott. He couldn't be here. He's a professor and he had to teach tonight, so that's why he's not here. But also, I'd like to dedicate my few minutes at the podium here to Otto Henderberg, a Swillburg resident who many recall fondly. Besides his tireless efforts to mobilize Swillburg residents, he also took part on the crucial Genesee Expressway Task Force. And to his great credit, Otto had perfect attendance during the 18 months of that committee's existence. The expressways that cross Rochester have their historical roots going back to 1947, when the city was planning an arterial system. In the early 1960s, more formal planning took place under Mayor Gillette. And in regards to a southerly route, the city and state disputed the location of such an expressway. The city preferred one along the east side of Genesee River, while the state proposed one running parallel to South Clinton, but on the west side of it. Next came the 1965 Rochester Metropolitan Transportation Study of 1990, which predicted our population in Monroe County to be 900,000. It was paid for by the feds and the state, and it was our basic guideline for local transportation planning. And it was the one that proposed linking the outer and inner loops right through Swillburg. In October of 1971, a group of neighbors called Expressway Neighbors went door to door encouraging Swillburgers not to give up. We have nothing to lose by continuing to fight. It had been 8 long years since they heard of the expressway threat, and they hadn't had a public hearing since 1963. From 1963 to 71, there was no public hearing. That 1963 hearing took place down at the Midtown Auditorium, and it was a meeting at which our beloved and late Eileen McCann spoke out with quote-unquote a barrage of words against the expressway. And at that meeting, the Swillburg neighbors learned that it would be 2.5 years before the Department of Transportation knew which houses would need to be removed. In the span of that time, a lot had changed. Between 1963 and the early 1970s, the one thing, Earth Day happened, April of 1970. New objections by the environmental people began to rise, as well as social considerations. More and more people came to believe that a city cut to pieces by expressways is not a very good place to live in. And that's from the DNC, a great article. It was also the latter years of the period of unrest over civil rights in Vietnam. People had become empowered and mobilized their causes. And it appears that Rochesterians were no exception. In July of 1971, the task force that Otto served on, comprised of citizens, members of environmental groups, and government and business groups, was commissioned. 18 grueling months later, that committee recommended that the expressway link through Swillburg not be built. The deciding vote on that task force, by the way, is interestingly enough, it was the Department of Transportation's representative, Bernard Perry. He cast the deciding vote not to build the expressway. Wow, I thought that was pretty impressive. 1 month later, City Council voted against the expressway, February 1973. Unfortunately, powerful business leaders would resurrect the expressway issue in 1975, and again, City Council would defeat it. Throughout those years, neighborhood opposition was helped by Ecotrans, a grassroots environmental group, as well as the Sierra Club, and very importantly, the Southeast Area Coalition, who played a big role in the recovery of this neighborhood over the years. Also, bike clubs, churches, and the League of Women Voters. This is a Rochester story of coalition, collaboration, and unrelenting work to preserve the quality of life in our city and to save a humble little neighborhood. When I wrote the late Jane Coates Kay, author of Asphalt Nation, if you get a chance, read that book. It's a real life eye-opener. About Swillburg's special salvation, she responded that such a feat was a rare and complimented Rochester. It was just so rare. It's very unusual. So, in the future, if we wish to defend our neighborhood or to undertake significant projects of community improvement, let's reflect on this monumental effort and be inspired by the tireless work of common citizens, organized grassroots groups, and responsive government representatives, and move optimistically forward. Thank you.
You can see why he's our resident historian. The name Yaddo is synonymous with Swillburg. The Yaddos are a fifth-generation family that chose to live, to work, and to make significant contributions to this community for its betterment. Whether one needs a quality apartment, an electrical issue fixed in your old home, a helping hand, they have embodied the concept of what it means to be a Swillburg family deeply committed to community. Speaking on behalf, but certainly not for, all of the Yaddos is Joe Yaddo.
Thank you, Judy, for the generous introduction. I'm proud to represent 5 generations of Yaddos. It's a French-Canadian name, we have resided or now reside in Swillburg. In 1909, my Yato grandparents, Maria and Frank Yato, built a new home at 70 Sycamore Street. They would leave quite a legacy, 11 children and 63 grandchildren. Many of these aunts and uncles and their children would make their homes in Swillburg. In 1942, my parents, Jean and Loretta, would purchase 59 Sycamore Street. 10 children would live there. In 1948, my Aunt Marge and Uncle Tom would purchase 14 Sycamore Street. 8 children would live there. They would lose a son, Ricky, a U.S. Marine, in August 1968 to the Vietnam War. In 1958, my sister Ann and her husband Jim would purchase 23 Sycamore Street. 5 children would live there. Small family. On or about 1970, the Genesee Expressway was proposed. My sister and her husband, my aunt and uncle, would lose their homes about 1972. On the lighter side, I have a little story.
What's up?
In 1973, my wife and I received a call from a couple who owned a two-family house at South Clinton and Fountain Street. It sits right in behind the Shred garden at the bottom of the hill here. Their home was not going to be taken down, but they couldn't live adjacent to the noise and pollution that would arise. They wanted to give us the opportunity to purchase it because that was the best paperboard they ever had. Believe me, I earned it. I had to put their paper in the door every day. I did it for 4 years. So we decided to buy it and still own it. Whenever my brothers and sisters, cousins, nieces, and nephews get together, Swillburg is always brought up. We have fond memories and wonderful stories from a great neighborhood. Thank you for this opportunity to reminisce. Thank you.
If any of you have ever gone down Field Street and you see this beautiful row along Lansdale of apartments, I was wondering who it was, and I said, well, that's Joe Yatto, of course. You could tell the quality of the Yatto family's work. How many of you were living in Swillburg at the time of the defeat of the expressway? Okay, thank you. We want to say thank you for Whenever historians look back at significant events that define a city or a neighborhood, certain individual names arise. Moral courage, vision, stamina for the long haul are words that often are attributed to such leaders. In 1974, the City Council of Rochester had such leaders of moral courage who listened to the community and vetoed the expressway expansion. We want to say a warm welcome to Luke Parisi, who served on City Council at the time.
It's really wonderful to be here. When I got a call from Joyce, I believe it's pronounced Nakeda,
Right.
and I talked to Mike and Judy. They said it's been 40 years since the expressway was given to shut down the expressway. And my first reaction was, my gosh, I'm old. And then the next reaction was, gee, I don't remember a lot about that. And then the next reaction was, I better get busy and find out what we did. To get to understand just what this meant to me personally, and as a member of what I consider to be one of the most forward-looking city councils in the history of Rochester, and I was so pleased to play a very minor part in that group. I moved to Rochester in 1964, and we lived in a house on the corner of Field and Crosman Terrace, right down the street. I had no idea what was going on at the time. I had no ambitions for political office in my head. But I noticed over a period of the first couple of years, around 1965, 1966, there was all this chatter going on about the expressway, and people were getting nervous. And the first sign of trouble was when I first saw those where the new houses are on Field Street from the corner down. Those were lovely houses. They were boarded up, and we experienced a period of vandalism where people came in and took out plumbing, electricity, anything they could. And then I thought, there's a problem here. And then I began to talk to some of the neighbors and what have you. And I met the Yaddo family, God bless them all for their votes at that time. and what happened was I moved over across from the park in the city, and I became involved in politics with Kennedys, with Bobby Kennedy and so forth. And some of my good friends are Chris Lindley and others that got involved with that. Tom Fry is here also, and we met. And that germinated a group of young men who were either very stupid or very brave. I'm not sure which one. And what we discovered was there was a lot of work that was done. And predecessors before us had done some work, but the council had changed in nature by a sweep of a whole bunch of new people on board. What occurred to me as this event was happening was that the properties in this area were kind of up in the air, not knowing what to do. People wanted to repair their porches, but should they repair their porches? Maybe not, because the expressway might come through. Roofs, yards, all kinds of things that people were putting off. And that's important to keep in mind, especially 40 years later. What then happened was we went through this whole experience of this vote, which was really exciting in one way, and really in a way terrifying at times, because the crowds really came out with a lot of energy. And there was no question that night, I think it was at East High School, when everybody wanted to know how the council was going to vote. And that night at East High School, when Chris Lindley gave the vote that sealed the bid that the expressway would be shut down, there was a roar in the crowd. Just a roar. This is really going to happen. People were so excited about that. I gave the next vote that made sure that there was insurance that it would never occur again. And we were surprised because at the same time, the other groups that were interested, had vested interest in the expressway, also had their meeting too. But theirs was private, and they shut the press out, and they sat us down with the vested interests that were there and so forth. And it was a real interesting one because these were very powerful people in the community. And they had money, position, and what have you. But I was so impressed as a new councilman to see Tom Ryan, who was mayor at that time, get up and take it head on and speak where he was. And one by one they asked us, what are you going to do? And each and every one of us stood up and said exactly what we were going to do in that meeting. After we left, we went to the next meeting where we dealt with the public, and we did the same thing, and that's when Chris got all the applause. And I was like, we didn't have the deciding vote. Everybody loves that guy. But that's what happened. After that occurred, and I don't know if Judy remembers this, but we had a commissioner of community development named John State. Very, very sharp, very wonderful guy, very neighborhood oriented. And we sat down, and Judy, I don't know if you recall this, after that vote, we came to see you, John and
I do remember.
and we said, okay, you've won, now what are you going to do? Because at that point, not only was that expressway going to go through the Swillburg area, for hundreds of yards on each side of that would be a no man's land. Everything around that, peripheral properties, would not be of any value. It would be a sore. The next time you drive out an expressway that cuts through a city, take a good look around. And we all felt like on the council, we didn't want to say 30 or 40 years later, oops, we made a mistake. You know? But at that time, John sat down and we talked about this, and we said, okay, this is what the city can do. That we can provide you with professional help, a professional city planner. We can give you the neighbors. We can give you an engineer. We can give you an architect. We can give you additional help as you need it. But you need to get together and plan and work this out. We can provide curbing. We can provide certain things on streets. We can provide a number of different things. But also at the same time, community development had what was called the 312 loan, which was a very inexpensive property rehab loan at 3.5%, which was a godsend at that time. And we would help you get those loans. we would help you restore your property. As you look at this community now and drive through, go down Clinton Avenue, and you will find some of the best restaurants in town. They're from Cuban to Chinese to Indian to you name it, plus one of the best restaurants in Monroe County, Rudy's, out of Davina. But when you look at the houses and they've been repaired, upgraded, and what have you, there's a sense of community there of the new wave of the new generation who has come through, nurtured by those people who fought to keep that community in that neighborhood. You have affordable housing that's incredibly valuable to people today. Those are massive improvements. That versus this monster of an expressway that was going to cut through there and destroy people and lives. You look at that now, and those of you who live there now, think of the history that preceded you if you're new in the area. I have one note that I mentioned to Mike that I wanted to say to you. Congratulations for the celebration. Continue to celebrate. Celebrate the victory. But most importantly, continue to tell the history of what happened here and its success story.
Thank you. See the people of moral courage. Chris Lindley, stand up too. We just want to acknowledge for your along the group. Tom Fry was in the legislature. Members of the Southeast Area Coalition that were vital at that stage. Others that are here, Janet Lairs are here. Are there others? Yeah, it took a lot in this community to really defeat this expressway, to have this community voice. But a vital community requires partnerships, not only with the public, but also with private interests. I bought my house on Benton Street in 1976, right after the expressway was defeated. Any of you who've lived on an older home, you know that you always need something. You need bolts, you need sashes, you need something you don't even know what you need, and you gotta have some place to go. My go-to place, and for many of you, with a Simmons Hardware. There was never a time that I entered that where Bob or Ed or Roy didn't answer my dumb question. I know along with the rest of you. The Simmons have been a third-generation business owners in this community, and we are proud to invite Ed up tonight, who has maintained that commitment as a business owner and a clear partner with Swillburg. Ed Simmons.
Thank you, Judy. I have to say that with our son, four Simmonses,
Yes.
that have lived in Sarah. My grandfather lived on Raymond Street. My father was born in 1914. My father brought me home from the hospital to Highland Parkway. He lived at Rodenbeck Place, up at Henrietta Street for several years. And our son Rob found his first home on Greenview Drive. I still haven't moved out of my zip code. We're the proud owners of Simmons Hardware from 1910 until I sadly closed the business in 1998. The planning and partial implementation of the Genesee Expressway had a profound impact on our business. In addition to the numerous customers who were lost when the houses were demolished, there were scores of others who were told that their houses were going to be torn down in the near future. They were told their home was worth a certain dollar amount. They were going to receive that dollar amount no matter what the final condition of the home. There's no incentive to remodel or even repair the homes. They wouldn't spray paint. They wouldn't replace the leaky gutter or fix the front porch. Wasn't great for the hardware business. The fabric of the community and the vibrancy of the area were destroyed waiting for the bulldozers to show up. But as we now celebrate, that plan was never executed. It gave the Simmons family an opportunity to grow and expand the business, in the process make people's lives better and more comfortable. But it also gave them the opportunity to make friendships that still lasted over 20 years after the hardware stores closed. I could mourn what was lost, but to finally remember the past and look with optimism the bright future of the area. The area is truly a wonderful, vibrant mix of businesses, people, and ethnicities. Businesses open and close, expand and change. Neighbors move over the hill or to the other side of the country. However, it's the friendships that only can be built in a wonderful neighborhood like this that will remain forever.
Jean Van Meer says in the book Community and Growth, one of the marvelous things about community is that it enables us to welcome and help people in a way that we couldn't as individuals. When we pool our strength and share work and responsibility, we can welcome many people, even those in deep distress, and perhaps help them find self-confidence and inner healing. This year, Swillburg was proud to support a house for homeless youth operated by the Center for Youth Agency. With a belief, as neighbors said, no child should be homeless. Especially in Swillburg, no child should be homeless. Elaine Spall serves as Executive Director of the Center for Youth and is a present member of City Council. She has embodied Van Meer's vision of pooling her energy and work at all levels of society to bring community and healing, and has been a terrific South Wedge partner. Say, Swillburg partner. You can tell I still live in South Wedge part-time. Is Elaine?
I am.
There you are. Come on up.
Thank you, thank you. First of all, let me apologize. I'm wearing sensible shoes, and I'm sort of self-conscious about it. You know the way I like to sort of glam it up. And I am erecting at this moment an 18,000 square foot tent on what's called Parcel 5, the last piece of downtown, Midtown, for Fashion Week of Rochester, which is going to start on Tuesday and go all next week. And we expect about 3,000 people in and out. And as much as I love fashion and glamour, the only reason we're doing this, the only reason is to raise about $350,000 to keep shelters open like the New Beginning House, our crisis nursery, and so many of our young people. Our federal funding, as you know, many of you know, is very, very fragile, and we've lost a lot of it. So we have fashion shows, and we do what we can. But, you know, I want to tell you that, first of all, you were one of the first neighborhoods. I'm looking at some of my friends in the audience. You were one of the first neighborhoods that welcomed me when I started thinking about becoming a city councilwoman 8 or 9 years ago. Lois Geis was retiring. Nobody should ever run against Lois Geis. I wouldn't have. And I was prompted to step up, like I wasn't busy enough. But it has been the most wonderful experience for me, because meeting folks as I do every day, hundreds of them a year, and walking door to door campaigning, there's nothing like the people in the East District and the people in Swillburg. And if we've left little notes in your house, I'm sorry I missed you, but I'm glad you were there. You made it easy for me to ask with great hesitation, and Judy and others were very, very good when I said, you know what, there's a young man who has a house that he wants to give me or donate to me at a very, very reduced price, and it's right on Field Street. And I want you to know how much it would mean to me to have you guys welcome these young men. Now, they're knuckleheads. I'm going to tell you that every day. I'm like, really? But I have a son, and although he's 30 and fabulous, we all have had teenagers, many of us, and you know, we love men, don't we? But they are sort of the flawed genders when they're I gotta say that right out loud. Especially when they're 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 and haven't been loved. And these young men, there are 6 of them now, but I'm going to tell you a quick little story, because I don't, you know, the mic is dangerous in my hands, and you have a whole program. But one of the most recent young men that came in is 19 years old, and he's a sophomore at RIT. And he's been living in his car at RIT. Now, RIT, as you know, is one of the most wonderful places in the world, a great educational institution. And a group of people called me. I used to work there. Hold, I want to take my glasses off before you take my picture. You know, I am fashionable, right? But this is what it's come to. I'm wearing glasses now. But, you know, he was living in his car. And somebody called me. I was dean of students there for many years, as some of you know. And they said, we have a young man who's fabulous, but he's living in his car. And I'm like, what. Now, we're going to get our IT to work that out. But until they do, he was out of his car and in the New Beginning house. So that's an example of not all the guys that are coming to our neighborhood are coming out of a traditional homeless situation. Some of our boys are very in big struggle, but to be able to welcome them into this home, to keep him in school, to keep him fed. We have a new food cupboard called The Nook that is full from Wegmans and wonderful people. And Swillburg embodies, I'm going to get teary-eyed now. Swillburg embodies for me what neighborhood engagement, what neighborhood welcoming. Bill Gerling, who we lost, I don't know if Cheryl's here, used to every month he would come and speak to City Council and he would say, I'm Bill Gerling and I live in Swillburg where we still honor the pig. And honestly, and my colleagues would all go, what? But that's what he said. And so tonight I honor you. I honor you for what you've done for this neighborhood, for me personally, as friends, and God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You talk about the role that public officials play of businesses and family. Visual artists use their talents to give voice through art forms that also mark our history. They mark a way of telling a story that we are able to get in a new way. You see along the back, Maria Frisk has done an incredible number of panels that are on Pembroke. And if you have not walked down Pembroke, we encourage you in Swillburg to do that and to stop back and meet Maria, who will tell you more about the development and stories behind that. Swillburg Steering Committee member, Joyce Nakata, brought her filmmaking skills to bear by putting together a short video of the defeat of the expressway. And we want to say thank you, Joyce. What a hidden talent. What a great gift it's been for us as steering committee members. And so, hit it, Brady.
Give the pumpkin here to the resident of Swillburg who has lived in the neighborhood the longest. So, those who have been here more than 40 years, hands in the air. More than 40 years in Swillburg, all right. Okay, do we have, keep your hand in the air if you've been here more than 45 years. I can see ya. Okay, what about more than 50 years? More than 50? All right. I have to jump up a little faster. More than 55? More than 55? Yeah. More than 60? More than 60 years? Wow, what about 65? More than 65 years? What about 70? More than 70? All right, 75? 75?
November 10th, 1939.
Okay, we got our winner back there. Liz Kristoff is in the back. Liz, just wave your hand. She has lots of silver, not take it home. She's willing to make bargains back there. So really, don't even think about going home without some swag. Just another announcement. Carl reminded me that the assessments are coming up in Swillburg. We've been so successful that our assessments are going up 10 to 20%. So there will be a meeting either the 20th or 21st with the Highland Park Neighborhood Association to meet with the city assessor and to hear a little bit of that. So just a little announcement on that. But a special thank you to all of you for coming tonight. Jimmy Carter says, each of us must rededicate ourselves to serving the common good. We are a community. Our individual fates are linked, our futures intertwined, And if we act in that knowledge and in that spirit together, we can move mountains. Swillburg is proud that the mountain called the Genesee Expressway expansion was moved, thanks to the multiple voices of people like Otto Hindenburg and the many people gathered here this night. Thank you all for being here and supporting Swillburg with your moral courage, with your hands. You planted community gardens. Dave Chappas, where are you? And Matt Purdo, we want to say thank you and welcome you tonight back. You made a significant contribution. That's what Swillburg is about, everyone doing their small part. It's a part of the larger whole. Thank you tonight. We hope you still get your meal. If you haven't, Brian is still there, but have some more fellowship time. Thank you.